Discovery and Rescue. The ancient cargo freighter Rusty Nail groaned as it pushed through the inky void of deep space. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her calloused hands gripping the warm control panel as she guided the ship towards its next destination. The ship had seen better days, but it was home to Sarah and her ragtag crew of misfits and outcasts. "Captain, we've got an issue in the cargo hold," crackled the voice of her first mate, Jax, over the intercom. Sarah sighed, running a hand through her short, graying hair. "What now? If it's those Centaurian slime eels acting up again, I swear I'll space the lot of them." "No, ma'am," Jax replied, his tone unusually serious. "You'd better come see this for yourself." Curiosity piqued, Sarah made her way through the ship's cramped corridors, the metal deck plates clanging beneath her boots. The Rusty Nail wasn't much to look at, but she could haul cargo across the galaxy faster than ships twice her size. It was how Sarah and her crew stayed competitive in a universe dominated by massive corporate freighters. As she approached the cargo hold, Sarah heard hushed voices and the sound of something scuffling. She rounded the corner to find Jax and the ship's engineer, a burly woman named Zoe, huddled around a stack of crates. "All right, what's the big mist?" Sarah's words died in her throat as she saw what had captured her crew's attention. Crouched between two crates, its eyes wide with fear, was a child, but not a human child. This creature had iridescent blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light of the cargo hold. Its large, almond-shaped eyes were a deep purple, and delicate tendrils framed its face where hair would be on a human. "Well, I'll be damned," Sarah breathed, crouching down to get a better look. The alien child whimpered and tried to retreat further into the shadows. "Found it when I was doing inventory," Jax explained. "Must have snuck aboard during our last stop on Proxima Station." Sarah's mind raced. Alien stowaways were bad news. If caught harboring one, they could lose their shipping license or worse. But as she looked at the trembling child, Sarah felt a long-dormant maternal instinct stirring within her. "Hey there, little one," she said softly, holding out her hand. "It's okay. We're not going to hurt you." The child hesitated, then slowly reached out with a six-fingered hand to touch Sarah's palm. Its skin was cool and slightly damp, like a frog's. "Captain," Zoe said nervously, "what are we going to do? We can't just." "We're not turning it in," Sarah said firmly, surprising even herself with the conviction in her voice. "Look at it. It's terrified and alone. Who knows what would happen if we handed it over to the authorities?" Jax and Zoe exchanged worried glances. "But Captain," Jax protested, "if we're caught." "Then we won't get caught," Sarah said, her tone brooking no argument. She turned back to the alien child, who was watching the exchange with wary curiosity. "You got a name, kid?" The child made a series of clicks and whistles that Sarah's universal translator couldn't decipher. "Right," Sarah chuckled. "Well, we've got to call you something. How about Blue?" The child tilted its head, then nodded slowly. "All right, Blue it is," Sarah said, standing up. "Zoe, see if you can rig up some kind of living space for our new passenger. Nothing fancy, just somewhere safe and out of sight. Jax, I need you to go through our supply manifest. Figure out what kind of food this little one might be able to eat." As her crew scrambled to follow orders, Sarah felt a tug on her pant leg. She looked down to see Blue staring up at her, those purple eyes filled with a mix of fear and hope. "Don't worry, kid," Sarah said softly. "We'll figure this out." Over the next few days, the crew of the Rusty Nail adjusted to their unusual new passenger. Blue proved to be a quick learner, picking up basic hand gestures and even a few words of English. Sarah found herself spending more and more time with the alien child, teaching it about the ship and telling stories of her adventures across the galaxy. But as they neared their next port of call, a growing sense of unease settled over the ship. They couldn't keep Blue hidden forever, and the consequences of harboring an alien stowaway loomed large in everyone's minds. One evening, As Sarah sat in her quarters reviewing shipping manifests, her door chime sounded. "Come in," she called, expecting Jax or Zoe with a status report. Instead, Blue shuffled into the room, clutching a datapad. The alien child had taken to carrying the device everywhere, using its translation software to communicate more complex ideas. "Can't sleep?" Sarah asked, setting aside her work. Blue shook its head and tapped at the datapad. A computerized voice emanated from the device. "Danger coming. Must hide." Sarah frowned. "What do you mean, Blue? What kind of danger?" The alien child's tendrils quivered with agitation as it typed furiously. "Bad ones search. Want to take me. Hurt you." A chill ran down Sarah's spine. She'd assumed Blue was simply a lost child, but what if there was more to the story? What if someone was actively looking for the alien? Before Sarah could press for more details, the ship's alarm began to blare. Jax's panicked voice came over the intercom. "Captain to the bridge. We've got company, and they're not looking friendly." Sarah sprang into action, scooping up Blue and racing towards the bridge. As she ran, her mind whirled with possibilities. Who was after this child and why? What had she gotten her crew into? One thing was certain, Sarah Chen wasn't about to let anyone harm the alien child she'd come to care for. As she burst onto the bridge, adrenaline coursing through her veins, Sarah knew that her life, and the lives of her crew, were about to change forever. The vastness of space loomed before them on the main view screen, but Sarah's eyes were drawn to a sleek, predatory-looking ship that was rapidly closing in on the Rusty Nail. Its design was like nothing she'd ever seen before, all sharp angles and pulsing energy conduits. "What the hell is that?" Sarah demanded, setting Blue down and sliding into the captain's chair. Jax's fingers flew over the sensor controls. "Unknown configuration, Captain, but it's putting out more power than anything I've ever seen, and it's hailing us." Sarah took a deep breath, steeling herself. On screen. The view screen flickered, and Sarah found herself face to face with a being that could only be described as a more mature version of Blue. The alien's skin was a deeper shade of blue, its tendrils longer and more elaborate, but it was the eyes that caught Sarah's attention, cold and calculating, without a hint of warmth. "Greetings, human vessel," the alien said, its voice translated into a metallic approximation of English. "I am High Commander Zix of the Cerulean Imperium. You are harboring a fugitive of great importance to our people. Surrender the child immediately, or face annihilation." Sarah felt Blue pressing against her leg, trembling in fear. She placed a reassuring hand on the child's head, never taking her eyes off the alien commander. "I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the independent freighter Rusty Nail," she replied, keeping her voice steady. "I'm afraid there's been some mistake. We're just a simple cargo ship, no fugitives here." The alien's eyes narrowed. "Do not attempt to deceive us, Captain Chen. Our scans detect the child's unique biosignature aboard your vessel. This is your final warning. Surrender the fugitive, or we will open fire." Sarah's mind raced. They were outgunned and outclassed by the alien ship. Running wasn't an option, but she'd be damned if she was going to hand Blue over to these cold-hearted bastards. "Listen here, Commander," Sarah said, injecting steel into her voice. "I don't know what's going on between you and this child, but where I come from, we don't go around threatening to blow up ships over custody disputes. How about we discuss this like civilized beings?" For a moment, surprise flickered across the alien commander's face. Clearly, he wasn't used to being spoken to in such a manner. Then his expression hardened once more. "You test my patience, human," Zix growled. "Very well. You have one standard rotation to prepare the fugitive for transfer. If you attempt to flee or resist, we will not hesitate to destroy your vessel." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. "Captain," Zoe said, her voice shaking slightly, "what are we going to do?" Sarah looked down at Blue, who was staring up at her with those big, pleading eyes. In that moment, she knew she couldn't give up on this child, no matter the cost. We're going to do what humans do best, Sarah said, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. We're going to get creative. As the crew huddled around the strategy table in the ship's mess hall, Sarah laid out her plan. It was risky, bordering on insane, but it was the best chance they had. Zoe, I need you to rig up some kind of cloaking device for Blue, Sarah said. Doesn't have to be perfect, just enough to mask the biosignature they're tracking. The engineer nodded, her mind already whirring with possibilities. I might be able to jury-rig something using the radiation shielding from the engine room. It'll leave us vulnerable if we hit a solar storm, but it could work. Do it, Sarah ordered. She turned to Jax. I need you to prep the cargo shuttle. Strip it down, make it as fast and maneuverable as possible, and brush up on your evasive piloting skills. Jax grinned, a glint of excitement in his eyes. You got it, Captain. I'll make that bucket of bolts dance. What about me? Piped up Diego, the ship's young medic. What can I do? Sarah considered for a moment. I need you to give Blue a crash course in human biology. If this works, the kid's going to need to pass for human, at least briefly. As the crew dispersed to carry out their tasks, Sarah felt a tug on her sleeve. She looked down to see Blue holding up the datapad. Why help? The computerized voice asked. Dangerous, not your problem. Sarah crouched down, meeting the alien child's eyes. Because it's the right thing to do, kid, and because, well, I've grown kind of fond of you. Us humans were stubborn like that. Once we decide to protect something, we don't give up easy. Blue's tendrils quivered in what Sarah had come to recognize as the alien equivalent of a smile. The child typed quickly. Thank you. We'll try to be brave like humans. Sarah felt a lump form in her throat. You already are, Blue. You already are. As the deadline approached, the rusty nail hummed with nervous energy. Zoe had managed to cobble together a crude cloaking device, while Diego had done his best to coach Blue on how to act human. Now everything hinged on their audacious plan. Approaching cerulean vessel, Jax announced from the pilot's seat of the cargo shuttle. You ready for this, Captain? Sarah nodded, her jaw set with determination. As ready as I'll ever be. Remember, no matter what happens, your priority is getting Blue to safety. With a final deep breath, Sarah opened a channel to the alien ship. Commander Zix, this is Captain Chen. We're prepared to transfer the fugitive as agreed. The alien commander's face appeared on the shuttle's small view screen. Very wise, human. Approach our docking bay slowly. Any sudden moves, and we will open fire. As the shuttle crept towards the massive alien vessel, Sarah's hand tightened on Blue's shoulder. The child was practically unrecognizable, covered in a layer of synthetic skin that mimicked human tones. It wasn't perfect, but it might be enough to fool the aliens, at least momentarily. Now, Jax, Sarah shouted as they neared the docking bay entrance. The pilot's hands flew over the controls, and suddenly the little shuttle was dancing through space, juking and weaving in a series of maneuvers that would have made a fighter pilot proud. Caught off guard, the cerulean ship's weapons fire went wide. Deploying countermeasures, Jax called out as he released a cloud of sensor-jamming particles behind them. On the main ship, Zoe activated the jury-rigged cloaking device, briefly masking the rusty nail from the alien vessel's sensors. In that moment of confusion, the freighter began to move, plotting an escape vector. Back on the shuttle, alarms blared as the cerulean ship locked weapons on them. We're not going to make it, Jax yelled, his voice tight with tension. Sarah made a split-second decision. Get ready to eject, she ordered, strapping Blue into an escape pod. I'll draw their fire. Before anyone could protest, Sarah sealed the pod and fired it away from the shuttle on a trajectory that would take it to the nearest habitable planet. Then she took the shuttle's controls, putting herself between the alien weapons and the precious cargo she'd just launched into space. As energy beams lanced out from the cerulean ship, Sarah allowed herself a small smile. She might not make it out of this alive, but she'd given Blue a chance of freedom. And in doing so, she'd rediscovered a part of herself she thought she'd lost long ago. The shuttle bucked and shuddered under the assault, systems failing all around her. As darkness began to creep in at the edges of her vision, Sarah's last thought was of the strange, wonderful child who had dropped into her life and changed everything. "Good luck, kid," she whispered. "Show the galaxy what humanity taught you." Adaptation and bonding. The escape pod hurtled through space, its lone occupant pressed against the viewport, purple eyes wide with a mixture of fear and wonder. Blue had never felt so alone, yet the human child disguise provided a strange comfort, a final gift from the brave captain who had sacrificed everything. As the pod entered the atmosphere of a nearby planet, Blue's mind raced with the lessons learned aboard the Rusty Nail. Humans were resourceful, adaptable, and above all determined. It was time to put those lessons to the test. The pod crashed through dense foliage, coming to rest in a clearing of an alien forest. Steam hissed from the battered hull as the hatch popped open. Blue stumbled out, disoriented but alive. The air was thick and humid, filled with unfamiliar scents and sounds. "Okay, think like Sarah," Blue muttered, the words feeling strange on an alien tongue. "First, find water and shelter." As if in answer, a distant rumble of thunder echoed through the trees. Rain began to fall, cool droplets sizzling as they hit the hot metal of the escape pod. Blue tilted its head back, letting the water wash away the synthetic skin Diego had so carefully applied. For a moment, the young alien allowed itself to mourn for the humans who had shown such kindness. But there was no time for extended grief. Blue knew the Cerulean Imperium would not give up so easily. With renewed determination, the child set off into the alien wilderness, Sarah's lessons echoing in its mind. Days passed in a blur of survival challenges. Blue learned to identify edible plants, to create shelter from broad leaves and fallen branches, to stay hidden when strange creatures prowled nearby. All the while, the young alien's mind worked on a plan. This planet was clearly inhabited. There had to be a way off-world, a chance to warn Sarah's people of the danger that was coming. On the 10th day, Blue's persistence paid off. The sound of engines rumbled overhead, and a sleek vessel descended into a clearing not far from the makeshift camp. Heart pounding, Blue crept closer, peering through the underbrush at the ship and its crew. They weren't human, but they weren't Cerulean either. Bipedal with mottled green skin and elongated limbs, they moved with a fluid grace as they collected samples from the forest floor. Scientists, Blue realized, recalling Sarah's stories of explorers and researchers who roamed the galaxy. Taking a deep breath, Blue stepped out of hiding. "Hello," the young alien called out, voice shaky but determined. "I need help." The alien scientists whirled, eyes wide with surprise. One of them fumbled with a translator device, and a moment later, a metallic voice rang out. "Incredible. A juvenile Cerulean, alone on this world. How is this possible?" Blue's tendrils quivered with anxiety, but Sarah's voice seemed to whisper encouragement. "Be brave. Be human." "My name is Blue," the child said, standing as tall as possible. "I'm a refugee. There are bad people looking for me, and I need to get a message to Earth. Can you help me?" The lead scientist, a tall being with intricate patterns swirling across its green skin, crouched down to Blue's level. Its large, multifaceted eyes studied the young alien with intense curiosity. "Earth, the human homeworld. This is most unusual. Perhaps we should." The scientist's words were cut off by a deafening roar from above. Blue's heart sank as a massive Cerulean warship broke through the clouds, its weapons already powering up. "Please," Blue begged, grabbing the scientist's hand. "We have to run. They'll destroy everything to get to me." For a moment, the alien researcher hesitated, clearly torn between scientific curiosity and self-preservation. Then, with a decisive nod, it scooped Blue up and sprinted for their ship. Quickly, everyone aboard. As energy beams lanced down from the cerulean vessel, scorching the forest and barely missing the fleeing scientists, Blue clung to its rescuer. The small research ship shuddered as it lifted off, straining against the planet's gravity. "Can we outrun them?" Blue asked, fear evident in its voice. The lead scientist's expression was grim as it strapped itself into the pilot's seat. "Outrun? No, but we might just be able to outsmart them." With a burst of acceleration that pushed everyone back into their seats, the research vessel shot into the upper atmosphere. The cerulean warship gave chase, its superior engines quickly closing the gap. "Hold on tight, little one," the scientist said, its hands dancing over the controls. "This may get a bit bumpy." What followed was a harrowing game of cat and mouse through the planet's complex ring system. The smaller research vessel darted between chunks of ice and rock, using the debris as cover, while the larger warship was forced to blast its way through. Blue watched in awe as the alien scientists worked together seamlessly, calling out sensor readings and adjusting their course on the fly. It reminded the young cerulean of Sarah and her crew, that same spirit of cooperation and quick thinking that had seemed so uniquely human. Just when it seemed they might escape, a lucky shot from the warship clipped their engine. Alarms blared as the research vessel began to spin out of control. "We're losing power," one of the scientists called out. "We can't maintain this course." The lead researcher turned to Blue, its expression sullen. "Little one, we may not be able to get you all the way to Earth, but there's a station not far from here. It's a haven for refugees and outlaws. You might find help there. Are you ready to be brave again?" Blue nodded, trying to swallow the lump of fear in its throat. "I'm ready." With the last of their maneuvering power, the scientists programmed a course for the station and prepared their single escape pod. As they strapped Blue in, the lead researcher pressed a small device into the child's hand. "This data crystal contains everything we've learned about you and the cerulean ship," it explained quickly. "Find someone trustworthy and get this information to Earth. The galaxy may depend on it." Before Blue could respond, the pod was launched, streaking away from the doomed research vessel. The last thing the young aliens saw before the pod entered slipspace was the bright flash of the scientist's ship as it detonated, taking the cerulean warship with it in a final, defiant act. Tears flowed freely down Blue's face as the pod hurtled through the void. So much sacrifice, so much loss, all for one small refugee. The weight of it all threatened to crush the young alien's spirit. But then, like a beacon in the darkness, Sarah's words came back once more. "Us humans, we're stubborn like that. Once we decide to protect something, we don't give up easy." Blue's tendrils straightened with newfound resolve. These brave beings, human and alien alike, had given everything to offer a chance at freedom. Their sacrifices would not be in vain. As the refugee station grew larger in the pod's viewport, Blue made a silent vow. Somehow, some way, the young cerulean would get to Earth, and when the Imperium came, as it surely would, humanity would be ready. The pod docked with a gentle thud, and Blue stepped out into a cacophony of sights, sounds, and smells. The refugee station was a patchwork construct of mismatched ships and habitation modules, teeming with beings from 100 different worlds. For a moment, the sheer alienness of it all threatened to overwhelm the young cerulean. But then Blue spotted a familiar shape moving through the crowd, a human, weathered and scarred but unmistakable. Taking a deep breath, Blue approached the stranger. "Excuse me," the young alien said, clutching the data crystal tightly. "I need to get to Earth. It's important." The human turned, eyebrow raised in surprise. But as their eyes met, a spark of recognition seemed to pass between them. Perhaps it was the determination in Blue's stance, or the hint of Sarah's teachings in the young alien's words. Whatever the reason, the human's weathered face broke into a crooked grin. "Well now," they said, crouching down to Blue's level. "That sounds like the beginning of one hell of a story. Why don't you tell me all about it, kid?" As Blue began to recount the harrowing journey, A small flame of hope kindled in the young alien's chest. The road ahead would be long and fraught with danger, but with the lessons of humanity to guide the way, anything seemed possible. The human listened intently, their expression growing more serious with each passing moment. When Blue finished, the strangers stood, a look of grim determination etched across their features. "All right, kid," they said, offering a calloused hand. "My name's Jack, and I've got a ship that might just be crazy enough to get us to Earth. But I've got to warn you, it won't be an easy journey." Blue's tendrils quivered with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "I'm ready," the young alien said, taking Jack's hand. "Sarah taught me that humans never back down from a challenge." Jack's eyebrows shot up at the mention of Sarah's name, but he simply nodded. Sounds like this Sarah knew what she was talking about. Come on then, let's go save the galaxy. As they made their way through the crowded station, Blue couldn't help but feel a sense of destiny. The young Cerulean had started this journey as a frightened stowaway, but with each step, each act of kindness and courage, a transformation was taking place. By the time they reached Jack's ship, a patched-together freighter that bore more than a passing resemblance to the rusty nail, Blue stood a little taller, eyes shining with purpose. The Cerulean Imperium was coming, but they would find more than just a frightened child waiting for them. They would face the combined strength of humanity and its allies, a force tempered by compassion and steeled by determination. As Jack's ship broke free of the station's docking clamps and set a course for Earth, Blue settled into the co-pilot's seat. The stars stretched into lines of light as they entered slip space, and the young alien felt a sense of peace wash over them. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Blue knew one thing for certain: the lessons of humanity would light the way forward, and together, they just might change the fate of the galaxy. Pursuit and revelation. The battered freighter dropped out of slip space with a shudder, Earth's blue-green sphere filling the viewport. Blue pressed against the glass, purple eyes wide with wonder. After weeks of narrow escapes and tense hyperspace jumps, they had finally arrived. Jack's gruff voice broke the moment of awe. "Don't get too excited, kid. Getting to Earth was the easy part. Now we've got to convince the powers that be to listen to us." As they descended through the atmosphere, Blue clutched the data crystal tightly. So much depended on the information it contained: the sacrifices of Sarah, the alien scientists, and countless others who had helped along the way. Their ship touched down at a high-security spaceport outside a sprawling metropolis. No sooner had the engines powered down than they were surrounded by armed guards and stern-faced officials. Captain Jack Hawkins, a severe-looking woman in a crisp uniform, addressed them as they disembarked. "You're in violation of at least 15 interstellar travel protocols. Care to explain why we shouldn't arrest you on the spot?" Jack raised his hands in a placating gesture. "Now, Admiral Chen, I know we've had our differences in the past, but—" "Chen," Blue interrupted, stepping forward. "Are you related to Sarah Chen?" The Admiral's eyes widened as she took in the young Cerulean's appearance. For a moment, her stern facade cracked, revealing a flicker of emotion. "Sarah, you knew my sister." In that instant, Blue understood. This was why Sarah had been so determined to help, why she had sacrificed everything. The captain had seen a chance to make a difference, to protect not just Blue, but her own family and planet. "She saved me," Blue said softly, "and now I'm here to return the favor." Over the next few hours, in a secure briefing room deep beneath the spaceport, Blue and Jack recounted their harrowing journey. The data crystal was analyzed, revealing the true extent of the Cerulean Imperium's power and their plans for Earth. Admiral Chen's face grew increasingly grim as the briefing progressed. When it was over, she turned to her aides. "Get me the Secretary General. We need to convene an emergency session of the United Earth Council." As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Blue felt a hand on their shoulder. Jack knelt down, his weathered face etched with concern. "You did good, kid, but things are about to get complicated. Are you ready for what comes next?" Blue's tendrils straightened with determination. I've come this far. I won't back down now. The next few days passed in a blur of debriefings, medical examinations, and tense strategy sessions. Blue found themselves at the center of a political and military storm as Earth's leaders grappled with the looming threat of the Cerulean Imperium. Through it all, Jack remained a steady presence, advocating for Blue and offering quiet words of encouragement. But even he couldn't shield the young alien from the weight of responsibility that now rested on their small shoulders. It was during one particularly heated debate in the United Earth Council chambers that everything changed. As politicians argued over the best course of action, a commotion erupted outside. The doors burst open, and a familiar figure strode in, battered and bruised, but unmistakably alive. "Sarah," Blue cried out, rushing towards the woman who had started this incredible journey. Captain Sarah Chen scooped Blue up in a fierce hug, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I thought I'd lost you, kid," she whispered. As the room erupted into chaos, Sarah quickly explained her miraculous survival. Rescued from her crippled shuttle by a passing freighter, she had been working her way back to Earth, gathering allies and information along the way. "But that's not important right now," Sarah said, her expression turning serious. "The Cerulean fleet is on its way. We have maybe 2 days before they reach Earth's orbit." The news sent shockwaves through the assembly. But as panic threatened to set in, Blue's voice rang out, clear and determined. "I know why they're coming," the young Cerulean said, stepping forward. All eyes turned to the small alien child who had brought this storm to Earth's doorstep. "And I know how we can stop them." In that moment, as Blue began to explain, a transformation took place. The frightened stowaway who had hidden in the Rusty Nail's cargo hold was gone. In its place stood a bridge between two worlds, a symbol of hope in the face of overwhelming odds. As Blue spoke, weaving together the fragments of truth gathered on their long journey, the pieces began to fall into place. The Cerulean Imperium's obsession with retrieving this one child, the massive fleet they had devoted to the task, it all pointed to a single shocking conclusion. "I'm not just a refugee," Blue revealed, voice trembling slightly. "I'm the heir to the Cerulean throne, and I chose to run because I saw a better way, the human way." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Then, slowly, Admiral Chen stepped forward, her eyes moving from Blue to her long-lost sister Sarah. "Well then," the Admiral said, a hint of her sister's adventurous spirit shining through her official demeanor, "I believe it's time we showed the Cerulean Imperium exactly what humanity is capable of when we decide to protect something." As the council chamber erupted into a flurry of activity, battle plans being drawn up and alliances forged, Blue felt a sense of purpose unlike anything they had experienced before. The young alien had started this journey seeking refuge, but now stood ready to fight not just for their own freedom, but for the future of 2 civilizations. Sarah knelt down beside Blue, her hand resting gently on the child's shoulder. "I'm proud of you, kid," she said softly. "But are you sure about this? It's not going to be easy." Blue's tendrils quivered with a mixture of fear and determination. "You taught me that humans don't back down from a challenge," the young Cerulean replied. "It's time I lived up to that lesson." As they turned to face the assembled leaders of Earth, ready to plan the defense of their adopted home, Blue felt a surge of hope. The Cerulean Imperium was coming, bringing with it the full might of their advanced civilization, but they would find more than just a frightened child waiting for them. They would face the combined strength of humanity, resourceful, adaptable, and above all, determined to forge a better future among the stars. The next 48 hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Earth's defenses were mobilized, a hastily assembled fleet of ships from a dozen alien races answering the call to stand against the Cerulean threat. At the heart of it all was Blue, working tirelessly alongside Sarah, Jack, and Admiral Chen to prepare for the coming storm. As the deadline approached, Blue stood on the bridge of Earth's flagship, gazing out at the assembled fleet. Ships of all shapes and sizes hung in the void, a testament to the alliances forged in the face of common danger. "It's time," Admiral Chen said softly, placing a hand on Blue's shoulder. "Are you ready?" The young Cerulean nodded, feeling the weight of two civilizations resting upon them. As they stepped forward to address the fleet, Blue silently vowed to honor the sacrifices that had led to this moment. Whatever came next, they would face it with the courage and determination that humanity had taught them. The fate of galaxies hung in the balance, and Blue was ready to fight for a future where understanding trumped fear and compassion overcame hatred. The stars seemed to hold their breath as the Cerulean fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system. The final battle for Earth's future was about to begin. Human ingenuity, the vast emptiness of space, was suddenly filled with the imposing sight of the Cerulean fleet. Hundreds of sleek, biomechanical ships hung in the void, their hulls shimmering with an otherworldly blue light. At the center of the armada loomed a massive flagship, easily dwarfing Earth's largest vessels. On the bridge of the human flagship, now named Rusty Nail in honor of Sarah's old ship, tension was palpable. Blue stood between Sarah and Admiral Chen, purple eyes fixed on the approaching threat. "They're hailing us," a communications officer announced, her voice tight with stress. Admiral Chen nodded grimly. On screen, the view screen flickered to life, revealing the stern visage of High Commander Zix. His cold eyes swept across the bridge before settling on Blue. "So, the wayward hare returns," Zix said, his voice dripping with disdain. "I will give you one chance, child. Surrender yourself, and we may spare this primitive world you've grown so fond of." Blue stepped forward, tendrils quivering but voice steady. "I will not surrender, Zix, and Earth is under my protection. The Cerulean Imperium has no claim here." Zix's expression darkened. "You naive child. You would throw away your birthright for these humans." He spat the word as if it left a bad taste in his mouth. "Very well. Let their destruction be on your conscience." As the transmission cut off, alarms blared across the fleet. The Cerulean Armada was powering up its weapons, preparing to strike. "All ships, battle stations." Admiral Chen barked. "Initiate Operation Trojan Horse." A flurry of activity erupted across the bridge. Sarah turned to Blue, a fierce grin on her face. "Ready to show these stuck-up squids what humanity is made of, kid?" Blue nodded, feeling a surge of determination. This was it, the moment where all their planning and preparation would be put to the test. As the Cerulean fleet advanced, the Earth Defense Force seemed to scatter, ships peeling off in apparent disarray. But this was no retreat. It was the first phase of a daring plan, one that relied on the uniquely human traits of adaptability and out-of-the-box thinking. Smaller, nimbler ships darted between the Cerulean vessels, drawing their fire and attention. Meanwhile, repurposed mining vessels moved into position, their powerful cutting beams recalibrated for a very different purpose. "Now," Admiral Chen ordered. The mining ships sprang into action, their beams lancing out to carve precise, geometric patterns into the hulls of the Cerulean ships. It wasn't enough to destroy them outright, but it disrupted the biomechanical interfacing that made the alien vessels so formidable. Caught off guard by this unconventional attack, the Cerulean fleet's formation began to falter, but this was just the beginning. "Phase 2, Sarah called out, her hands flying over the tactical controls. "Let's show them some real fireworks." A swarm of what appeared to be debris suddenly came to life. These were the remnants of old satellites and space junk, repurposed into miniature drones. They latched onto the Cerulean ships, interfering with their sensors and communications. In the chaos that ensued, Earth's fleet pressed their advantage. Ships that had seemed to retreat earlier now swooped back into the fray, concentrating their fire on the weakened points created by the mining beams. Blue watched in awe as the battle unfolded. The sheer creativity and resourcefulness of the human tactics were unlike anything in Cerulean military doctrine. Where the Imperium relied on overwhelming force and superior technology, the humans used every trick and tool at their disposal, turning apparent weaknesses into strengths. But the tide of battle could still turn. The Cerulean flagship, largely untouched by the initial assault, was powering up its main weapon, a planet killer capable of reducing Earth to molten slag. "We need to take out that flagship," Admiral Chen said, her voice grim. "But our weapons can't penetrate its shields." Blue's mind raced, drawing on everything they had learned about human ingenuity. Then an idea sparked. "What if we don't need to penetrate the shields?" the young Cerulean asked. "What if we could use them against the ship itself?" Sarah's eyes lit up with understanding. "Kid, you're a genius. Admiral, remember the experimental resonance device we were working on?" Admiral Chen nodded slowly, a smile spreading across her face. "It's risky, untested. I love it. Make it happen, Captain." What followed was a daring maneuver that would go down in the annals of space warfare. The Rusty Nail, escorted by a squadron of fighters, made a beeline for the Cerulean flagship. They weaved through a barrage of enemy fire, closing the distance with reckless speed. At the last moment, as the flagship's weapons locked on, the Rusty Nail deployed its secret weapon, a device that emitted a precise frequency, causing the Cerulean shields to resonate and amplify the energy. The result was spectacular. The flagship's own shields turned into a cage of destructive energy, tearing the massive ship apart from the inside out. As the Cerulean command structure crumbled, the rest of the fleet fell into disarray. Some ships continued to fight, while others began to retreat or even surrender. In the aftermath of the battle, as the adrenaline began to fade, Blue looked out at the starfield, now littered with the debris of both Cerulean and Earth ships. The cost had been high, but humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with on the galactic stage. Admiral Chen placed a hand on Blue's shoulder. "It's not over yet, little one. We've won the battle, but now comes the hard part, winning the peace." Blue nodded, understanding the weight of the task ahead. As the heir to the Cerulean throne and a child of two worlds, they would have a crucial role to play in the negotiations to come. As the Rusty Nail set a course back to Earth, Blue felt a mixture of exhaustion and hope. The young Cerulean had witnessed firsthand the incredible potential of humanity when united against a common threat. Now, it was time to see if that same ingenuity and determination could be applied to forging a lasting peace. The next chapter of this interstellar drama was about to unfold, and Blue was ready to face it with all the lessons of humanity they had learned along the way. Galactic confrontation. The days following the battle were a whirlwind of activity. As Earth celebrated its victory, the real work was just beginning. The United Earth Council chamber, once filled with arguments and fear, now buzzed with a new energy as representatives from both human and alien worlds gathered to shape the future of galactic relations. Blue stood at the center of it all, a small figure carrying the weight of two civilizations on their shoulders. The young Cerulean had traded their makeshift clothes for a formal robe that blended Earth and Cerulean styles, a visible symbol of their unique position as a bridge between worlds. The floor recognizes Blue, heir to the Cerulean throne and honorary citizen of Earth, announced the council speaker, her voice echoing through the packed chamber. As Blue stepped up to the podium, they caught sight of familiar faces in the crowd. Sarah and Jack sat with the heroes of the battle, their expressions a mix of pride and concern. Admiral Chen stood with Earth's military leadership, her posture rigid but a glimmer of hope in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, Blue began to speak. "People of Earth, delegates of the galactic community, and representatives of the Cerulean Imperium, we stand at a crossroads. The battle we fought was not just about the fate of one planet or one child. It was about the future we choose to build together." The chamber fell silent, all eyes fixed on the young alien who had become a symbol of hope and change. "I was born to rule the Cerulean Imperium, but I chose to flee because I saw a different path. On Earth, I learned the true strength of diversity, of adapting and growing through challenges. I learned that power doesn't come from domination, but from cooperation. Blue's gaze swept the room, meeting the eyes of humans and aliens alike. The Cerulean Imperium has much to offer the galaxy: advanced technology, deep knowledge of the cosmos, and a rich cultural heritage. But we also have much to learn. From humans, we can learn creativity, resilience, and the power of individual choice. As Blue continued, outlining a vision for a new galactic order based on mutual respect and cooperation, the atmosphere in the chamber began to shift. Even the most hardened skeptics found themselves considering the possibilities. But not everyone was swayed. A commotion erupted from the Cerulean delegation. High Commander Zix, who had survived the destruction of his flagship, stood up abruptly. "This is absurd," he bellowed, his face contorted with rage. "You would have us abandon centuries of tradition to bow to the whims of a child and these primitive humans." The chamber erupted into chaos, with delegates shouting and gesturing wildly. For a moment, it seemed that all the progress made might unravel. Then, a voice cut through the din. "Enough." All heads turned to see Admiral Chen standing, her expression fierce. "We didn't fight and die out there just to squabble like children in here. Blue has shown more wisdom and courage than most of us twice their age. I say we listen." A murmur of agreement rippled through the human delegates. Slowly, other alien representatives began to nod as well. Zix, seeing his support dwindling, made one last desperate move. "The heir is too young, too influenced by human ideas. The Cerulean people will never accept this." It was then that an unexpected ally emerged. An elderly Cerulean, her tendrils grey with age, rose from her seat. "I am Matriarch Scylla, keeper of the Cerulean histories," she announced, her voice carrying a weight of authority that silenced even Zix. "And I say it is time for change." She turned to Blue, her eyes shining with a mix of sadness and hope. "Long have I watched our people stagnate, clinging to old ways out of fear. Perhaps it takes one who has seen beyond our borders to show us a new path." As Scylla spoke, more Cerulean delegates began to distance themselves from Zix. The tide was turning. Seizing the moment, Blue stepped down from the podium and approached Zix. The chamber held its breath, watching the confrontation between the young heir and the hardened commander. "High Commander," Blue said, their voice firm but not unkind, "I understand your fear. Change is never easy. But look around you. Look at what we can accomplish when we work together instead of against each other." Zix's expression wavered, uncertainty creeping into his eyes for the first time. "I don't ask you to abandon everything you know," Blue continued. "I ask you to expand it, to grow as I have grown. Will you take that step with me, for the good of our people and the galaxy?" For a long moment, Zix stood frozen, the weight of history and future possibility hanging in the balance. Then slowly he bowed his head. I will try," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. A collective exhale seemed to sweep through the chamber. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a start. As the session adjourned, Blue found themselves surrounded by well-wishers and supporters. But it was Sarah who reached them first, enveloping the young Cerulean in a fierce hug. "You did it, kid," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "You really did it." Blue's tendrils quivered with a mixture of exhaustion and elation. "We did it," they corrected. "All of us together." As the impromptu celebration continued around them, Blue caught sight of Earth through a large viewport. The blue-green planet hung serenely in the void, a symbol of the home and hope they had found. The road ahead would not be easy. There would be setbacks, disagreements, and challenges yet to come. But for the first time, there was a real chance for lasting peace and cooperation between Earth, the Cerulean Imperium, and the wider galactic community. Blue had started this journey as a frightened refugee, but now stood as a beacon of hope for two civilizations. As they looked out at the stars, the young Cerulean felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. The next chapter of galactic history was about to be written, and Blue was ready to face it with all the courage, wisdom, and humanity they had gained along the way. Triumph of humanity, 5 years had passed since the historic battle that had changed the course of galactic history. The United Earth Embassy on Cerulean Prime bustled with activity, a testament to the new era of cooperation between the two civilizations. At the center of it all stood Blue, no longer a child, but a young adult, but tendrils now longer and more intricate, symbolizing their growth and maturity. Blue stood before a large window, gazing out at the sprawling cerulean capital. The city was a blend of the old and the new, sleek cerulean architecture now interspersed with human-inspired designs. In the distance, a joint human-cerulean research facility dominated the skyline, its design a harmonious fusion of both cultures' aesthetics. Admiring the view, a familiar voice called out. Blue turned to see Sarah Chen, now Earth's ambassador to Cerulean Prime, approaching with a smile. The years had added a few more grey strands to her hair, but her eyes still sparkled with the same adventurous spirit. Just thinking about how far we've come, Blue replied, their voice deeper now, but still carrying that note of wonder that had characterized their childhood. Sarah nodded, joining Blue at the window. It hasn't been easy, but look at what we've accomplished. Joint scientific missions, cultural exchange programs, even talks of a unified galactic peacekeeping force. Their conversation was interrupted by a chime from Blue's communicator. The delegation from Earth is arriving, a voice announced. They're requesting your presence at the spaceport, Your Highness. Blue couldn't help but chuckle at the formal title. Even after all these years, it still felt strange. Duty calls, they said to Sarah. Care to join me? As they made their way to the spaceport in a sleek hover vehicle, Blue reflected on the challenges they had faced in the past 5 years. There had been resistance from hardliners on both sides, cultural misunderstandings, and moments when it seemed the fragile peace might shatter. But through it all, the spirit of cooperation that had been born in that desperate battle over Earth had persevered. Humanity's adaptability and creativity had proven to be infectious, inspiring changes throughout Cerulean society. And in turn, the Ceruleans had shared their advanced technology and deep understanding of the cosmos, accelerating human progress by decades. The spaceport was a hive of activity as they arrived. A crowd had gathered to witness the arrival of the Earth delegation, a mix of Ceruleans and humans who now called this world home. As the Earth ship docked, Blue felt a surge of emotion. Stepping out onto the platform was a face they hadn't seen in years. Jack Hawkins, the gruff but kind-hearted spacer who had helped bring them to Earth all those years ago. Jack, Blue called out, rushing forward to greet him with a warm embrace. I can't believe you're here. Jack chuckled, returning the hug. Wouldn't miss it for the world, kid, or should I say, Your Highness, he added with a wink. As they walked together towards the embassy, Jack filled them in on the purpose of the visit. We've got big news, he said, his eyes twinkling with excitement. The Galactic Council has approved the formation of the Interstellar Exploration and Peacekeeping Force, and they want you to lead it. Blue stopped in their tracks, stunned by the news. The Galactic Council, a governing body that had formed in the wake of the Earth-Cerulean Alliance, represented dozens of spacefaring civilizations. This new force would be responsible for maintaining peace and pushing the boundaries of known space. Me? Blue asked, their tendrils quivering with a mix of excitement and apprehension. But I've never. Sarah placed a reassuring hand on Blue's shoulder. You've been preparing for this your whole life, whether you knew it or not. You bridge two worlds, understand both human and cerulean perspectives. There's no one better suited for the job. As the implications sank in, Blue felt a familiar sense of purpose wash over them. This was a chance to take the lessons they had learned, the bravery of Sarah, the resourcefulness of Jack, the wisdom of Admiral Chen, and the compassion of countless others, and apply them on a galactic scale. Later that evening, a celebration was held in the embassy's grand hall. Representatives from Earth, Cerulean Prime, and a dozen other worlds mingled, their laughter and conversation a living testament to the new era of cooperation. Blue stood at the podium, looking out over the diverse crowd. Humans stood shoulder to shoulder with Cerulines, while representatives from other alien races added splashes of color and variety to the gathering. Friends, allies, fellow citizens of the galaxy, Blue began, their voice carrying clearly through the hall. Today, we stand on the threshold of a new age. An age where the boundaries between our worlds fade, where we explore the cosmos not as separate races, but as a united galactic community. As Blue spoke, holographic displays came to life around the room, showing images of joint human-Cerulean projects, massive space stations, terraforming efforts on distant worlds, and starships unlike anything seen before. The interstellar exploration and peacekeeping force represents more than just a military or scientific endeavor. It is a symbol of what we can achieve when we combine the best of all our cultures: human ingenuity and adaptability, Cerulean technology and cosmic understanding, and the unique perspectives of every world that joins our alliance. Blue's gaze swept the room, meeting the eyes of those who had been part of this journey from the beginning. Sarah and Jack, beaming with pride. Admiral Chen, now a respected advisor to the Galactic Council. Even former High Commander Six, who had become one of the strongest advocates for cooperation after his change of heart. As we venture out into the unknown, Blue continued, we carry with us the lessons of our past and the hope for our future. We will face challenges we cannot yet imagine, but we will face them together. And in doing so, we will write a new chapter in the history of our galaxy. As Blue concluded their speech, the hall erupted in applause. The enthusiasm was palpable, a shared excitement for the future they were building together. In that moment, as Blue looked out over the cheering crowd, they felt the full weight of their journey. From a frightened stowaway to a symbol of galactic unity, it had been a path filled with danger, loss, and unexpected joys. But most of all, it had been a testament to the power of humanity, not just the humans of Earth, but the human spirit that resided in all sentient beings. The ability to adapt, to show compassion, to face impossible odds with creativity and determination. As the celebration continued around them, Blue's gaze drifted to the night sky visible through the hall's transparent dome. The stars twinkled brightly, each one a potential adventure waiting to be explored. The next chapter of their journey was about to begin, and Blue was ready to face it with all the courage, wisdom, and humanity they had gained along the way. Whatever challenges the galaxy held, they would face them together, united in their diversity, stronger for their differences. And as the first ships of the new interstellar exploration and peacekeeping force prepared to launch, Blue knew that the true triumph of humanity was not in conquering the stars, but in learning to live among them in peace and harmony. The end of this story was just the beginning of a greater adventure, one that would span the cosmos and generations to come. And at its heart would always be the simple, powerful lessons that a young alien child had learned from the most unlikely of teachers, humanity itself.